She walks into the room, chin up, eyes steady, the kind of presence that turns heads, not because of beauty, but something deeper, something magnetic. You think she's confident, but what if you're wrong? What if that confidence isn't real power, but a performance? In a world obsessed with boldness, self-love, and viral affirmations, most people confuse loudness with strength and certainty with confidence. But Carl Jung, the man who mapped the unconscious, saw something different. He believed true feminine power wasn't in the pose, it was in the shadow. This video isn't about fake empowerment. It's not about boss babe slogans or aesthetics dressed up as self-worth. This is a descent into the deep feminine, into the parts we don't talk about, wounds, instincts, masks, into the power women are born with and often taught to fear. Because most of what's sold as confidence today is just a reaction, a defense, a way to stay in control without ever being fully seen. Jung didn't see feminine energy as weak or secondary. He saw it as vital, primal, and transformational, the source of intuition, chaos, creation, and depth. But for that power to awaken, something has to die. The image, the ego, the little girl trying to be liked. This video will show you the truth Jung hinted at, the real reason most women and men never touch true feminine power, and the secret waiting inside the shadow. Stay with me, because what you're about to discover might change how you see every woman you've ever known, including yourself. Confidence is often confused with control. She knows what to say. She holds her posture just right. She's articulate, unbothered, unapologetic. But inside, there's a script, not authenticity, but survival. Jung understood that many women build strength not from their center, but from reaction. Reaction to rejection, to fear, to not being enough. And so the world applauds her when she becomes untouchable, unshakable, even unknowable. But this isn't power, it's armor. It's the performance of confidence layered over unhealed patterns. And the more praise she receives for it, the more disconnected she becomes from who she really is. True confidence, Jung would say, is rooted not in how you appear, but in how well you know your shadow. Because power that doesn't come from wholeness is always at war with itself. That's why some of the most confident people collapse under real pressure. Because when the world stops validating their image, the structure falls apart. And beneath it, a scared child, a wounded woman, a soul starving for permission to be soft, raw, chaotic, human. This is the illusion of confidence. Mistaking control for trust. Mistaking independence for connection. Mistaking dominance for grace. The real feminine doesn't posture. She doesn't perform. She feels. And that's terrifying, not just to others, but to herself. Because feeling means surrender. And surrender isn't marketable. It doesn't fit in a 30-second reel. It's messy, unpredictable, and profoundly powerful. Carl Jung believed that when the feminine denies her depth, she becomes brittle, not because she's weak, but because she's been taught to fear her own strength. So she performs, and the world claps. But deep inside, a question lingers. What if there's more? Carl Jung didn't just speak of the feminine. He mapped her, not as one thing, but as many. He saw the feminine psyche as a constellation of archetypes, primal, symbolic energies that live in every woman and influence every man. They're not roles, they're blueprints, patterns of power that rise and fall based on awareness, trauma, culture, and choice. The mother, nurturing, stabilizing, life-giving. The maiden, innocent, curious, radiant with potential. The seductress, magnetic, intuitive, sensual, creative chaos. The queen, sovereign, wise, commanding without force. And in the shadows, the witch, the victim, the saboteur, the invisible woman. These aren't stereotypes. They're inner forces, and every woman cycles through them, consciously or unconsciously. The problem? Most are locked into just one. They're told to be desirable, but not too sexual. Independent, but still agreeable. Soft, but never vulnerable. Strong, but never too much. So the feminine becomes fractured, one archetype exalted, the others exiled. But Jung believed power wasn't found in becoming more of one. It came from integrating all of them. He wrote that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And that becoming means remembering every part you were told to hide. The maiden's openness, the mother's strength, the seductress's unapologetic hunger, the witch's knowing. Even the parts that rage, sabotage, and collapse, they belong too. Because without them, confidence is a mask. With them, it becomes presence. Archetypes aren't labels, they're mirrors. And when a woman sees them clearly, not just as symbols, but as pieces of herself, she begins to reclaim the power she was never meant to forget. Jung believed that every man carries a woman within him, and every woman a man. He called these inner opposites the Anima and Animus. The Anima is the unconscious feminine side of a man, his access to emotion, intuition, creativity, chaos. And for women, the Anima shows up not as a trait, but as a mirror. A woman interacts with the projected Anima constantly, in the way she sees herself, in the way men react to her, in how society reflects idealized images of femininity back at her. In Jung's time, the Anima was often repressed. Women were told to be gentle, obedient, secondary. Their power lived in silence. But today, the opposite problem emerges. The modern woman is expected to do everything, to lead, nurture, provide, seduce, heal, and stay soft, all at once. She's told to embrace her femininity, but only if it's productive, only if it serves a purpose, only if it's Instagrammable. And in that pressure to become everything, she often becomes nothing to herself. The Anima, once hidden, is now commercialized, turned into trends, sold back to women as empowerment, but stripped of depth. True Anima energy is wild, unpredictable, and deeply personal. It doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't need applause. It moves. But many women today are afraid of that movement. They fear softness will make them weak, that surrender will make them dependent. That intuition is just a distraction from the plan. And so the Anima goes quiet again, not from oppression, but from performance. Jung warned that when we suppress the Anima, we lose access to soul, to the irrational, the mysterious, the deeply human. A confident woman doesn't control her Anima. She listens to her. She dances with her. She lets her speak. Because when a woman reconnects with that inner wildness, she doesn't just become more powerful. She becomes more real. Before there is power, there is pain. The feminine in all of us carries wounds that are older than memory. Some are personal. Some are ancestral. some are cultural, but they live in the body and shape the way we show up in the world. Jung believed that wounds, if left unintegrated, turn into patterns, and these patterns become identity. A woman who was never emotionally held may learn to become untouchable. A girl whose voice was silenced might become loud, but never heard. A heart betrayed too many times may become magnetic, but guarded like steel. And the world applauds it. She's fierce, she's independent, she's high value. But beneath the performance is pain. The wounded feminine doesn't always cry. Sometimes she overfunctions. Sometimes she seduces to be seen. Sometimes she gives until there's nothing left, because giving became her worth. Jung said that neurosis is always a substitute for legitimate suffering. In other words, the things we call issues are often unprocessed grief, and the feminine carries grief like water, not just of failed love, but of identity denied, softness rejected, instincts ridiculed. A woman in touch with her wounds doesn't collapse. She doesn't dramatize them, she honors them, because she knows wounds that are hidden become habits. Wounds that are felt become wisdom, shadow work. The process Jung is known for isn't just about darkness, it's about truth. It's about going back to the moment the mask was chosen and asking, do I still need this? The feminine wound isn't a flaw, it's a portal. And when she walks through it with eyes wide open, she doesn't just heal herself. She begins to remember who she was before the world told her what to be. Power wears many faces, and for the feminine, two of those faces are often confused. One seduces, the other rules. The seductress is magnetic. She knows how to draw attention, not just through beauty, but through energy. She plays with perception. She's elusive, intuitive, emotionally agile, but she's also wounded. The seductress learned, often early, that her power lies in being desired, not known. She's the master of the gaze, but not of her center. She pulls people in, but rarely lets them stay. Because staying means being seen, and being seen means being vulnerable. The queen, on the other hand, does not seduce. She radiates. Her presence isn't about performance. It's about self-possession. She doesn't need to chase validation because she knows who she is, even when no one's watching. Jung didn't use these exact labels, but he spoke of the integration of the feminine, how a woman becomes whole, not by rejecting the seductress, but by transforming. When the seductress is unconscious, she manipulates. When conscious, she inspires. When wounded, she fears abandonment. When healed, she's a gateway to creativity, intuition, and unapologetic expression. The queen isn't better. She's more complete. She holds the chaos of the seductress with grace. She leads without needing permission. She attracts not by wanting to be chosen, but by choosing herself first. Many women today are stuck between the two. Seduction gets likes. Queens get misunderstood. One feeds the ego, the other feeds the soul. But Jung's teachings remind us, every archetype has a shadow, and only through awareness does that shadow become a source of power. The goal isn't to reject either one, but to ask, who is really in control here? The performance or the presence? Because the moment a woman stops trying to be liked and starts embodying truth, she doesn't just shift rooms, she shifts timelines. You can't fake it, you can't bottle it, you can't teach it in a course. True feminine power is felt, not just by the woman who holds it, but by everyone in her presence. It's not loud, it doesn't beg, it doesn't chase. It moves quietly, like water. And like water, It reshapes everything it touches. Carl Jung believed real power comes from integration, from knowing all your parts, especially the ones you tried to leave behind. A powerful woman isn't perfect. She's present. She knows her rage, but it doesn't consume her. She knows her softness, but it doesn't weaken her. She can cry without shame, speak without apology, leave without guilt. You feel her not because she's trying to prove something, but because she isn't. She holds space. She listens more than she speaks. And when she does speak, you listen. She's not controlled by roles. She doesn't shrink to fit rooms. She walks in alignment with her values, her body, her knowing. This kind of power doesn't scream. It resonates. It grounds the room. And here's the twist. It's not just spiritual. It's not just emotional. It's biological. When a woman feels safe in herself, her nervous system shifts. Her posture changes. Her voice drops. Her energy expands. She's not waiting to be picked. She's not proving she's enough. She remembers that she already is. Jung knew that the unconscious drives most of human behavior. So when a woman becomes conscious of herself, her patterns, her wounds, her archetypes, she steps into a frequency few people ever touch. And when that happens, she doesn't just feel powerful. She becomes unforgettable. If true feminine power is so natural, so ancient, so intuitive, why do so few ever reach it? Because it requires something the modern world avoids at all costs: depth. Carl Jung said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul." And that's exactly what happens. Most people stay on the surface. They chase confidence through appearance, performance, achievement, but never ask, "Who am I when I stop performing?" That question is terrifying because it means silence. It means slowing down. It means meeting the parts of yourself you were taught to hate. And the feminine, in her true form, is deeply emotional, intuitive, cyclical, and still. But our world rewards productivity, logic, speed, and control. So women learn to disconnect from their bodies, from their instincts, from their softness. They become efficient but empty, desired but unknown, loud but deeply unheard. Jung's work on the shadow reveals this truth. What you deny controls you, and what you integrate empowers you. Most never find true feminine power because they're too busy escaping their own reflection. They're addicted to noise, afraid of feeling too much, afraid of appearing weak, afraid of being seen, not for the image, but for the truth beneath it. And here's the paradox. Power doesn't come from escaping the shadow. It comes from walking into it. But shadow work isn't glamorous. It's not a trend. It's a quiet, often lonely process of shedding everything that isn't real, so what's real can finally breathe. That's why most never find it, not because it's far, but because it's buried under everything they were told to be. Power without balance becomes destruction, and the feminine, no matter how radiant, wise, or intuitive, needs the masculine to fully anchor her. Not the masculine outside of her, but the one within. Carl Jung taught that wholeness comes from uniting opposites, the feminine and masculine, anima and animus, yin and yang. Without one, the other becomes unstable. Without structure, chaos collapses. Without freedom, safety turns into suffocation. When a woman is disconnected from her inner masculine, her feminine may be wild but ungrounded. She might feel deeply but never act. She might love fiercely, but lack boundaries. She might create endlessly, but never complete. The inner masculine is the part that protects, initiates, holds, decides. It gives direction to her depth. It channels her fire without dimming it. Likewise, when a woman over-identifies with the masculine, all drive, all discipline, all doing, her feminine begins to fade. She may look successful, but feel empty. She may be admired, but deeply disconnected. True feminine power isn't about rejecting the masculine. It's about dancing with it, inside and out. A balanced woman doesn't just feel deeply, she moves decisively. She's not ruled by her emotions, but she doesn't fear them either. She can hold herself in chaos and still choose peace. This is the union Jung described. Not domination, not reversal. Integration, because when the masculine and feminine are in harmony, there's no need for war. The woman who finds this balance doesn't need to chase confidence. She embodies it, not as an idea, not as a mask, but as a natural state of being. And in that stillness, something ancient wakes up. She's no longer chasing it. Not confidence, not power, not approval. She's integrated. She's met her shadows and didn't flinch. She's faced her wounds and didn't run. She knows what hurts and what heals, what drains her and what brings her back to life. This is where radiance begins, not in the eyes of others, but in the quiet certainty of a woman who knows herself. Carl Jung didn't offer formulas. He offered maps to the soul, to the unconscious, to the forgotten parts of who we are. And when a woman uses that map, when she dares to go inward instead of outward, she doesn't just become confident, she becomes whole. No performance, no pretending, just presence. And presence is unforgettable.